So coming back to this point of the social, societal effect of AI generally, robotics is exploding at the same time. We're seeing for the first time ever these humanoid robots, which now have intelligence because of AI, becoming very, very good. There was a video the other day of a company called Figure AI where they showed a humanoid robot on a production line sorting packages against a human. And the humanoid robot did it, I think I'm going to get this wrong, but it was in the region of 7 or 8 days. It stood there and sorted packages, and they live streamed it next to a human being doing it. Now the human had to sleep and had to go to the toilet. So the humanoid robot won. And the job was very simple. The packages come down, you just have to pick the package up, turn it over, get it the right way round so the barcode's facing down, and put it back down. That is powered now because we have AI. I said it a couple of episodes ago, but my friend runs this big accelerator for entrepreneurs in San Francisco. And when I went there a couple of years ago, it was all software startups. I went there recently and it was hardware startups, the whole building. And I said, why is everyone doing robotics? He said, well, we've always had the machinery, the sort of like joints and arms and the hardware. The intelligence was expensive. Now we have both, and it costs pennies. So there's this boom in robotics. I say all this to ask the question. In a world where we have superintelligence and we have robots, there must be, surely, significant job disruption.
Very likely that there will be significant job disruption. You know, one of the scary things about SpaceX is you should wish that it not work out. Because if it became a bargain, rather like Tesla long ago became a bargain, it will mean that we have done centers from space, beaming down power for chips and so on. The population of chip users has expanded, that robots are everywhere, their energy demand is massive beyond belief, and the world is a very, very dangerous place. I would much prefer them to fail. The idea is to move much more slowly, to buy time for humans to work these things out. So, and I think that's much more likely.
You think SpaceX will fail?
I think it will fail to deliver anything like its promises in the prospectus. Yes, absolutely.
I'm an investor in SpaceX, so I should probably declare that.
Yeah, well, you should, and good luck.
I invested quite early, relatively early. So we've had quite a good outcome. There wasn't an AI thesis when I invested. It was Starlink.
Yeah, Starlink, rockets. Great idea, by the way, makes money. But this is not Starlink. Mm. Maybe I'd be an investor too if it was Starlink.
Yeah. It was $100 billion roughly in that region when I invested. So it rose up to $3 trillion today?
Yes, nice investment.
Not a bad investment, yeah.
But it doesn't really count until you've cashed it in.
Yeah, which I might do now.
Don't you have to wait 6 months?
I think we're locked out.
In another podcast, I was comparing the purchase of my Tesla 6 years ago with the price of Tesla stock. And I wrote it up in my quarterly letter to the clients that A, I'd bought a Tesla, and B, I thought Tesla was overpriced. And fast forward, Tesla stock went up 10 times over the life of my car, which still hasn't been, incidentally, into the garage once.
It's a great car, isn't it?
I imagine, though, but for people who really hate futzing around with cars, that component that they don't have to go to the garage is so underestimated until you enjoy it.
Never bet against Elon, then.
So then the story becomes, from where we were 10 years ago, he couldn't get there. It wasn't profitable enough. It couldn't grow as fast as it should. There was no way. And he broke the rules the following way. He's so good at BS, that's a technical term, that he talked the stock up to 4 or 5 times what it was worth on paper. Then he sold lots of stock at 5 times what it was worth, used the money to build a gigafactory. And then instead of the sale of stock crushing it, he kept on talking up the game. The stock kind of hung in and then went up again, 5 times what it was worth, sold another big slug, et cetera, et cetera. So the only reason he did well was because of the combination of incredible confidence inspiring in potential stockholders. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy. It wasn't worth that, but he persuaded other people that it was. The The stock went up, he cashed it in, he built factories. The stock went up, he cashed it in, he built more factories. And there we were. It went up 10 times. Now, the scale of SpaceX requires him to do the same again. And the timing of the market cycle, the timing of confidence would have to be the same. He hit, in the last 6 years, a wonderful bull market. He will not, in SpaceX, do that. SpaceX is such a fabulous BS story. Mining asteroids. Huge, incredible success of AI. It's the classic description of a market peak. It's what you look for at the top of a terrific bubble.
I've got a Tesla. I've seen that massive rocket, the Starship, be caught with those chopsticks.
Everyone has seen it. It's the defining feature of technology, isn't it? It's a magnificent moment. That's worth half the price of SpaceX.
Yeah, I think that's why I invested when I saw it. No. But also, I've seen with Neuralink, I've seen people that are paraplegic controlling computers. My Tesla drives itself for hours and hours and hours without me touching the pedals or the steering wheel because it can see the road and navigate itself. To his credit, as an innovator, he has created magic. So when you say about mining asteroids, if they had told me we would have reusable rockets that you could catch on chopsticks, I would have gone BS. There's no way. You can't capture like a 70-foot building.
But there is nothing in the laws of physics
that says
you can't do that.
That's what he says about the asteroids. And that's what he says about everything. He goes, if it's within the laws of physics, then it's possible.
Going to Mars is not within the laws of physics, really. It's a one-way ticket to Mars, for starters. When you're on Mars, humans do a couple of things really quickly. Their heart adjusts to the fact that it's 1/5 of the gravity. Your heart loses its muscle power, and your bones lose their internal strength. If you come down, your heart will fail, and all your bones will crack.
But you could be in an insulated environment, no?
First of all, you'd have to go underground to avoid the incredible incoming rays that will otherwise give you cancer in a few weeks. So dig a deep hole, and then you need a gravitational spinning machine, shades of 2001 or whatever it was called, and that maintains your gravitational impact, and you have to build it underground. You have to protect yourself against cosmic rays and against the gravitational difference. Listen, we have not been able to build a sustainable system in a dome ever. They all fail. Why would you not, let's say, guys, let's build a sustainable dome where you grow food, you put in people, you put in creatures and insects, and you show you can do it. I mean, we're destroying the damn planet, and yet we think we can go to another infinitely more hostile planet than this one.
I do agree with you on that. I do agree with us. I think we should focus on our planet first and foremost.
That's the really bad news embedded in your stock. It's really suggesting fantasy and long-term objectives at the very time when our own planet is under threat.
Would you ever invest in SpaceX?
Yeah, of course, if it came down to...
Where I invested.
10 cents on the dollar, yeah, I might. 5 cents.
Okay. You've got 3 children?
Yes.
3 children. They're all, older than me now, I believe. I'm 33 years old, so they're all...
Yes, they're all older than you.
They're all older than me. But when they were, if they were young now, and they came to you and they said, Dad, listen, I heard about all this AI stuff, and I'm about to go off to university and train myself. What skills should I be thinking about for the future ahead?
My take is I'd like them, as they are, to be involved in climate change work.
If they said, Dad, listen, I don't...
Be an engineer.
Why?
Do something really useful that will come in handy if things start to unravel.
What will come
practical skills.
What are practical skills?
Well, our second son is practicing growing various crops and has a small farm, you could say. So he's trying to get to know how you would deal with chickens, how you would deal with pigs, how you would deal with mushrooms.
Why does that matter, do you think, based on the future that you're forecasting?
I think there's quite a good chance that the level of complexity of our civilization will start to unravel. Lose the plot at the ends is the first thing that would go. I'll tell you a good sign. How long does it take to get your ambulance?
I don't know.
In the UK, it was 12 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
It's now an hour and a half.
Really? To get an ambulance?
It's exactly what you would expect as people begin to lose the plot a bit. They fray at the edges. People can't buy houses. People don't feel they can do as well as their parents. People are basically disgruntled. They want to vote against the party in power. You know, the recent move to Trump was less than the average move of the last 7 European elections. It didn't matter whether they were right-wing conservatives, kick the rascals out. Left-wing French, kick them out. And why do you want to kick them out? Because you don't think things are going well. You're not feeling really happy. You're disappointed.
Why?
Why? Obviously, the government's doing a bad job. I think that's the reflex.
What are the government doing wrong?
It may be that it's not the government doing anything wrong. It's just that the environment is becoming tougher.
As in the economic environment?
The economic environment, the
rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer.
I think that's the biggest economic problem. I mean, the US now has a Gini ratio, which is a measure of how unequal your society is, which is up there with Brazil and Mexico that used to be a joke. And now the US is up there. Since about 1975, all of the wealth worth talking about has gone to the top 10%, and a lot of that to the top 0.01. Before that, by the way, from 1935, from FDR to 1975, so that's 40 years, we had a wonderful period of growth. We had gains of over 3.5% a year. But the nice thing was that the poorest quarter made a little bit more than average, let's say 4%. And the richest quarter made a little less, let's say 3%. And everybody got richer. Everyone was happy. And then from 75 onwards, basically the average hour worked in America has barely gotten more adjusted for inflation than it did in 1975.
The richest 1% of Americans control 31% of the nation's entire wealth, and by contrast, the bottom 50% of the entire population shares just 2.5% of the wealth. The richest 10 US billionaires saw their wealth surge by 526% adjusted for inflation between 2020 and 2025. Between 1989 and the mid-2020s, the financial gain of a single household at the top 1% threshold was 987 times larger than the gain of a household in the bottom 20%.
Forget, in a sense, the bottom 20% is tragic, but the guy in the middle, the 50th percentile, he is unhappy also. And when your average guy is unhappy because he's not doing very well, you know you have a problem.
What is that problem? This inequality we're seeing across the Western world, what does history tell us happens next?
All bad. We had a similarly unequal society back in the so-called Gilded Age of the 1880s and 90s and so on. We got lucky in an ugly way. We ran into World War I, which was catastrophically expensive, killed off a huge fraction of the officer class. And then we went into the Great Depression. Then we went into World War II. We came out as a very equal society by historical standards. Obviously, in the wartime, you pull together, and the social contract, the feeling that you owe something to the rest of society, was much stronger than it is today.
I was doing some research, and it said when wealth inequality peaks to the extremes that we currently see in the US and the UK, history shows that the system inevitably resets. According to historical macro studies, peaceful policy changes almost never fix extreme inequality. Historically, a wealth peak is broken by one of three violent or catastrophic triggers. Number one, total civil collapse and state failure. Number two, mass mobilization warfare. Or number three, total revolution.
Yeah, and that's why number two was lucky. In the end, it's better to have a war and have everyone pull their weight and work together than it is the other. Civil wars are the worst of all kinds.
What do you think is likely to happen? It can't just keep becoming more unequal.
No, it can't. So it needs a government that is prepared to pull up Bernie Sanders to say, yeah, we're going to have to at least in a gentle and long-term way, shift the tax structure in favor of a slightly steeper curve.
So you mean taxation needs to go up? We need to tax the rich.
And help the poor. It's pretty simple. And you have a kind of steepness in every society. That's what they do. Every developed country in the world taxes the rich and helps the poor, don't they? It's a question of degree. We did much more helping the poor and taxing the rich in the 1950s and 60s and 40s than we do today. And somewhere between that level and the current level might be more than enough. If we just started to adopt the policy of 1935 to 75, where the bottom quarter get 0.5% a year richer than the average, and the top dogs get 0.5% less each year than the average, that sounds pretty unthreatening. I think we would ease our way over several decades into a better place.
If you were 33 now, my age, and you were trying to accumulate wealth.
Oh, God, I wish I was 33.
Do you?
It's such an exciting time.
What would you give to be 33?
There's nothing I can give.
No, but would you? I find this funny. I heard someone ask a question like this the other day. They said, like, would you give your entire available net worth to be 33?
Yeah, I think everyone says yes. I mean, how did one get a net worth? By work and luck and creativity, all those good things.
If you were 33 now in this moment in time, and your objective was, and this is a bit of a crass objective, but I'm going to, it sounds like it's a very one-dimensional objective, but if your objective was just to become rich now at 33, what strategy would you deploy? Again, I'm going to take away your contacts. I'm even going to take away everything you know. So you'd have to go on the journey of acquiring new information. What would you do?
I think the simple appeal would be to get your tail into AI and try and be a leader, try and know more about everything in that area than the next guy. Join a leading firm and go for broke. You may end up encouraging the destruction of the human species, but you asked a simple question, and I give you what I think is a simple answer.
And what I hear there is you want to make sure you're riding a wave that's coming into shore, and you're on the forefront of that incoming wave, like we saw with the tech bubble. We saw, we're now seeing with the AI bubble. So it's really about acquire the most valuable information.
Yes, and take lots of risk. Don't be conservative.
And work hard.
And think outside the box. I mean, I think that the biggest deficiency of most people is that they feel constrained to play the game by the regular rules and to believe that experts and authorities know what they're doing. And that, as you know, probably, it just ain't so.
What if I'm trying to invest? So say that I've got $1,000 or $10,000 and I want to invest it somewhere that's going to not lose me money through all of these cycles of, boom and bust. Because I'm interested. I have a lot of people message me and ask me about investing because I interview lots of people about investing. I have my own investment fund as well. But what advice do you give for the average person that's looking to invest their salary or their wages?
Buy a broad-based index of non-US equities.
Non-US? That's really surprising to me.
For like 60% of your money, and then 5 or 10% in precious metals. And if it's convenient and sensible, hold a bit of real estate. And the rest I'd put in bonds.
Okay, so 5 or 10% in things like silver and gold.
Yeah.
A preference for either silver or gold?
No.
S&P 500. No, you said non-US.
Non-US.
This is so interesting because everybody says invest in US stocks.
Of course they do. They've been completely dominant for 20 years, completely kicking ass around the rest of the world. And then in the last 12 months, emerging markets is up 65% now. The S&P has done much better than I would have guessed, but it's only 25. That's a lot less than 65.
And I guess the strategy is quite important here as well, which is you're saying to hold these for a long time. Try not to buy and sell.
And try and look at where the cycle has been. And I can tell you, and you can see it for yourself, there has been an enormous cycle in favor of the S&P, in favor of the American market over the rest of the world. And do you think America is going to keep on gaining on the rest of the world? And of course you're going to say yes now, because that's the flavor of this market. We think that what is good today will continue being good indefinitely, even though history tells you that is absolutely not the case. We live in a world that tends to rotate from one to the other. We believe in a world that extrapolates today's conditions, and you can easily prove that. The stock market is not efficient. The stock market extrapolates today's conditions. If they are terrible in 1982, they will take crushed earnings and multiply it by 7 times earnings. And then in 2000, peak profit margins times, 35 times earnings. They double count it in the worst way. When times are good, you multiply it by a lot. That's another way of saying you extrapolate it into the distant future.
You assume it's going to continue.
And Keynes, of course, my hero, says, of course, that's extrapolation is the convention you adopt, even though you know from personal experience that the world is not that way.
You didn't use the word crypto when you were talking about investment strategies. How much crypto do you own?
None.
Have you ever owned any crypto?
No.
Will you ever own any crypto?
No.
Will you ever advise anyone to buy crypto?
No.
Why?
I think it's an unnecessary piece of nonsense. It facilitates nothing except criminals moving money, so they can't be seen. It's not a store of value since it bounces around all over the place, just down from 120 to 60, because it felt like it. So it's not stable. It's volatile as hell. It's not used conveniently as a medium of exchange. You can't go into a shop and use it easily. It does one thing very, very well. It's a means of speculating beautifully.
Do you think Bitcoin's going to go to zero?
Well, in the distant future, yes, it will certainly go to zero, but it may take a long time. And in the distant future, everything goes to zero. So,
what about property as an investment? Because the first sort of reaction most people have when they have enough money to make an investment or to buy something is they buy a property as an investment asset. So people will go buy themselves a house, they'll move into it. We're kind of told that that's how you start to accumulate wealth, is you go buy yourself a house. What do you think of that?
It's hard to imagine how it could be a good decision when there's such an increasing fraction of people who can't afford it. And there is a political resistance,
Doesn't that just mean that if I buy one now and increasingly people can't afford one, doesn't that mean that my house is going to be worth more in 10 years' time?
Oh, if people can't afford it, there's no one bidding. And by the way, the population is going to decline. Young family formations are already declining in many of the richer countries. And if you have family formations declining and you have super expensive houses, what do you think is going to happen? Now, you could say, well, perhaps there will be a mysterious increase in family formations and that the chronic baby bust that we maybe will talk about soon will stop.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.